Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's meeting. I'm Councillor Claire Holland, leader of the council and chair of this meeting. This meeting is being recorded and is being broadcast live. And the recording of tonight's meeting may also be used for quality and training purposes. In the event that technical issues require the meeting to be adjourned and it cannot be restarted within a few minutes, further updates will be posted on the Council's Democracy Twitter account, which is at LBL Democracy. I think everyone here is from the, well, in case you're not, the fire doors are either side and they're marked, and there's toilets just outside the room. This evening we have received one apology from Councillor Mohammed Hashi. I've received no other apologies. We have an apology for lateness that we know about. No, okay, thank you. Job share voting arrangements. As set out on the agenda, the portfolio for healthier communities operates under a job share arrangement. The current decision maker for healthier communities is Councillor Marcia Cameron. Councillor Jim Dixon will not be voting at this meeting. Pecuniary interest. Does any councillor have a disclosable pecuniary interest that they have not already declared? No, thank you. No one has indicated. We'll move on to the next item. Minutes from the previous meetings. Are the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of February 2023 agreed as a true record of the proceedings? Agreed. Thank you, colleagues. The minutes are confirmed as a true record. We'll now move on to the next item, and we're taking the items in the following order. We're going to deal firstly with item 4, Lambeth Borough Plan 2023 to 2030, and then we'll move to quarter 3 budget and performance, and then we'll go back to Homes for Lambeth. So Lambeth Borough Plan. I'm going to introduce it, and I'd ask officers, the key officers, which is Chief Exec Biodesomno, Kieran Ferdinand and Ryan Devlin, will be speaking to this item and answering questions. So I'm very proud to introduce the Borough Plan, Our Future, Our Lambeth to Cabinet tonight. We've had significant challenges this last year, which we have faced head on as an administration. The corrosive impact of 13 years of Tory and Lib Dem austerity and the devastating impact it's had on our communities. The Tories crashing the economy and looking to us to pick up the pieces. The energy and cost of living crisis, and a Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt budget special that prioritised the richest 1% of our country over ordinary people struggling to survive. We've also seen the tragedy of the shooting of Chris Cabba, others losing their lives to violence, and the devastating incident at the Brixton Academy. Despite the desperate economic context this Tory government has created, we have set a balanced and ambitious budget with one of the largest cost of living packages in the UK. And whilst the government targets and dehumanises sanctuary seekers and breaks international law, we have secured Borough of Sanctuary status and are taking our work to the next level, continuing to honour our history, from Windrush to Syria to Afghanistan, welcoming all people to Lambeth to make it their home. Colleagues, we've also made good on many manifesto commitments already. Funding a pay rise for our carers through the Ethical Care Charter, agreeing the council's biggest ever tree planting programme, increasing funding to our advice agencies, starting the work needed to become an age-friendly borough. We've been recognised for our trailblazing curbside strategy, have put in place one of the largest retrofit programmes in London, and we're bringing our leisure services back in-house with benefits for local people, with free swimming for all under 11. And at the same time, we've secured £5 million for our pioneering work to tackle health inequalities in Lambeth. And we're tackling injustice through our work to make the police accountable, which we know is needed now more than ever, as we have seen in Baroness Casey's damning report that showed the shameful institutionalised racism, misogyny and homophobia of the Met. Now, we know that the damage done by successive Tory governments and the Lib Dem coalition cannot be fixed overnight, and challenges continue to be thrown in our way. And we know that the inequalities in our borough have been exacerbated by COVID and austerity. So what we need is a longer term plan to build on our proud record to deliver on our ambitions for Lambeth by 2030. We saw in COVID the best of our borough, how the council, community and voluntary organisations, businesses, anchor institutions and residents came together to carry us through. And Lambeth has an exceptional history, a history of radicals and change makers, artists and activists from William Blake to Olive Morris, who pushed the boundaries of what is possible and changed our borough for the better. And we are a truly diverse borough, and we need to nourish the array of talents that come with our diversity to ensure that no one is left behind and that everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Our future, our Lambeth 2030, sets out the strategic framework that will guide our work. It affirms our collective vision, values and ambitions, outlining how we will take forward our priorities in partnership. Because despite all our strengths and passions, we know a longer term, bold and joined up approach is needed if we are to tackle the ongoing economic and social challenges facing our borough. Our vision for Lambeth 2030 is a borough with social and climate justice at its heart. Our vision is that by harnessing the power and pride of our people and partnerships, we will proactively tackle inequalities so that children and young people can have the best start in life and so everyone can feel safe and thrive in a place of opportunity. And it's incumbent upon us all to make the bold decisions now, because the choices we make today will define the Lambeth we create for the next generation. Our future, our Lambeth, seeks not only to solve the problems and challenges of now, such as the cost of living crisis, and to put the foundations in place to prevent them again, but crucially, it's about transforming Lambeth so it's fit for the future, a future where the effects of the climate crisis loom large. Colleagues, we have a wonderful opportunity to transform and reshape our neighbourhoods and equip our communities to overcome future obstacles and enable us all to thrive. So the Lambeth that we see in 2030 is one that is healthier, safer, sustainable, climate resilient, and is active in tearing down deep-rooted inequities. Our future, our Lambeth, is the beginning of us taking that bold action, being brave in the face of an uncertain future, a plan shaped by our residents and rooted in our history and values. So I'm now going to ask officers to come to the table, Ryan Devlin and Kieran Ferdinand, who are going to talk to us about the creation of the borough plan, its ambitions, where we are now and the next steps. I don't know who's kicking off.
Thank you, Chair. Really pleased to recommend to Cabinet Lambeth 2030, our future, our Lambeth, as the Chair has described, which sets out our strategic framework from now until 2030 and affirms our collective vision, one that has been shaped not just by us as an organisation, but by residents, our partners and key institutions also. It's really important to note that Lambeth 2030 represents that shift towards a longer term planning for us as an organisation, for us as a borough. It is about how we will tackle the challenges that we see now to create the borough of the future. And again, as the Chair has said, we've done this within the context that we know we all face right now, so the cost of living crisis, climate crisis and the rising impact of that, and the continued and deep inequalities that many of our communities face. So this plan is geared up to help us future-proof Lambeth, is to help us be resilient to future shocks and challenges, and really importantly, bring that long-term partnership approach and focus to solving those challenges and deliver sustainable change. One of the key things that went into creating Lambeth 2030 was extensive engagement, and this plan is an absolute product of that. A few months ago, we set out to invite everyone who lives, works and visits Lambeth to have their say and imagine what the borough could look and feel like by 2030. So we're quite confident that this is founded on what residents have told us matters to them. And staff as well. So internally in the summer, we held the Lambeth Borough Plan Design Week, the first of its kind, which gave colleagues the opportunity to influence the plan. That was supported by external partners also. played a key role in helping us to further shape and refine our ambitions and encouraged us to be as bold as we could be as an organisation. And externally, we took a multifaceted approach to engagement. So that involved a series of thematic workshops, which helped us better define our ambitions also. A series of targeted workshops to hear from diverse demographic groups from across the borough. Roundtables with our VCS partners and key institutions to get that early buy-in so that we could deliver this plan in partnership, alongside a 2030 survey, which received over 600 responses. But that wasn't all. We've heard from residents time and time again, and we used those insights that have already been shared from other resident surveys and consultations, recognising that we know what matters to them across a range of areas. And that included the health and wellbeing strategy development, the child-friendly Lambeth engagement, and the Citizens' Assembly on the climate crisis. Now, we heard tons and tons and tons from all of that engagement, but what came across really strongly was the strong sense of pride and ownership of Lambeth residents. That's underpinned by a desire for us to be bold and ambitious for them as we look to overcome our challenges both now and in the future. And so our ambitions: making Lambeth neighbourhoods fit for the future, making Lambeth one of the safest boroughs in London, and making Lambeth a place we can all call home. And these are tied together by what we are calling our golden thread here in Lambeth: equity and justice. So that is again a shift for us, not seeing those as separate endeavours, but really taking an anti-racism and anti-discrimination approach through all that we do. These ambitions are bold, they have overlap, and that is intentional, so that we can have the kind of impact that makes a difference to the lives of Lambeth residents who continue to face injustice.
Thanks very much, Kieran. And as Kieran said, the growth plan isn't just about what we deliver for Lambeth, it's about how. So that's why Lambeth 2030 includes a series of commitments for Lambeth, which are about how the council will work with partners and residents. These reflect what we heard from those partners and residents in our engagement, and our commitment of councillors to deliver our ambitions in the right way. So our commitments for Lambeth are: you get the basics right, deliver great public services that fit what people need. People have a say and a stake in the decisions that matter. Work together in partnership to harness what makes Lambeth special. We're accessible, transparent, and we stand up to challenges. And these obviously cover a range of different ways in which we can operate individually and collectively to deliver the ambitions of the plan. Kieran rightly spoke about the boldness of the ambitions, and we're keen as a council to ensure that these are matched with bold outcomes that can be used to measure our success. So clearly this one document at quite a high level can't cover everything the council does or everything that we measure, such as our key performance indicators and outputs. But the outcomes that are in the plan are purposely targeted at the changes we want to create in Lambeth to make those ambitions a reality. I think they also help to bring to life what we mean for each of our ambitions. So hopefully everyone's got a copy of the plan as well. So for Borough of Equity and Justice, by 2030, Lambeth will have lower levels of deprivation, with fewer children going through poverty. By 2030, Lambeth will tackle structural inequalities adversely impacting Black, Asian, multi-ethnic residents by being a borough from anti-racism. By 2030, Lambeth will be a borough of progress, working with LGBTQ+ communities and disabled residents to tackle the biggest challenges they face. To make Lambeth neighbourhoods fit for the future, by 2030, Lambeth will be a net zero borough. Lambeth residents will experience good health and well-being, with improved healthy life expectancy for those with the poorest outcomes. And Lambeth will be a sustainable and healthy borough with more accessible and active travel options for everyone. To make Lambeth one of the safest boroughs in 2030, it will be a safer borough for everyone, with significant reduction in serious violence against young people. Lambeth will be a safer borough for women and girls, and all residents experiencing gender-based violence will be able to access support. And Lambeth will be a borough of prevention, tackling the root cause of violence to protect our communities. And finally, to make Lambeth a place we can all call home, Lambeth will be a borough of opportunity, with local people benefiting from jobs in our future growth industries. Lambeth will increase the supply of genuinely affordable housing and the quality of existing homes for residents who need them. By 2030, Lambeth will be a borough of sanctuary and age and childcare, best place to grow and age well. Now, clearly, there's much to do to achieve these outcomes, but we believe these outcomes will enable us to measure our success at delivering the ambitions that Kieran outlined and making tangible progress to ensure that Lambeth is a borough climate, social justice iceborough. And as we've said, this is a borough plan, not just a council plan, and it can only be a success if we work with our partners, including the NHS, universities, schools and businesses, alongside our residents. Our commitment in the plan is that Lambeth will be a borough partnership. Institutions, businesses, residents, community groups and organisations can work together to solve the biggest challenges facing the borough. But to build on the widespread engagement that Kieran outlined that took place in the borough plan development, there will be further staff, public and partner engagement throughout 2023 to make the plan a reality. Importantly, we want Lambeth partnerships to be inclusive and representative. This is reflected in the establishment of two new strategic partnerships that are proposed in the cabinet. The Lambeth 2030 partnership, which will oversee the delivery of our borough plan, and the Lambeth United Equity and Inclusion partnership, leading our work to become a borough of justice, so reflecting the golden thread that we talked about in the plan. Both partnerships aren't there to replace, but they're there to work with existing forums, partnerships, collaborations to make Lambeth 2030 a success. So that's what we're going to say in terms of introduction, in terms of the plan. Taking the questions, Chair. I just wanted to finish though by saying thank you to Kieran, to Ella Cheney and the policy team and the wider strategy and communications team for all the effort that's just gone into both the engagement and the creation of the plan.
Just three brief points. Firstly, the importance of a vision that we all can work together with our contractors, partners, community, everyone buys into it. We can all pull together to make Lambeth move us forward over 2030. So that's for me one of the powerful things about this document. The second thing is about the personality of Lambeth. So it's a document that represents us. It's a document that we all want to be. So personality of Lambeth. And the third thing is just to add to Ryan's point about thank you. So thank you to members, thank you to partners. We'll still keep talking about it, but at least we have a basis now to move forward, engage, and have a vision that actually changes and improves us going forward. So that was the three things, Chair, I was going to say.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bo. Yeah, I want to add my thanks as well, and I'll do that at the end when people have had the chance to speak. So thank you, Kieran and Ryan and Bio. We've had two requests to speak on this item, and that's Councillor Scott Ainsley and Councillor Nicole Griffith. Scott, if you want to come up to the table, I think Nicole's online. I'll take you, Scott, first.
How many minutes is it through?
3. Sorry, I was just reminding myself. Well, Scott, 3 now. Yeah, you have 3 minutes, yes, to speak on this item.
Thank you very much. Labour has controlled this council for the past 17 years. Previous borough plan was produced in 2016, updated in 2018, updated again in 2020. Here we are again 3 years on. 170 staff were involved in producing this. Is this a good use of resources? How much did it cost? Does it make any difference to outcomes or delivery or performance or the lived experience of Lambeth residents? That can only be demonstrated by looking at the outcomes of the previous borough plan, but there is no evaluation of the successes or failures of the previous borough plan. How about Lambeth undertaking a review of the previous borough plan? Where is the consistency? Where is the you said, we did? Where is the admission of what has gone wrong and what lessons have been learnt? So the golden thread is equity and justice, saying by 2030 Lambeth will be a fairer and equitable borough which seeks to deliver justice through all that we do, with our commitment to communities to work together. Now, that the claim is to harness the power and pride of our people and partnerships to proactively tackle inequality with an open heart. But then it denies 22%, over 1/5 of its residents who support Green Party policies, more than a minimal 3 minutes to contribute to this. Lambeth's voting population is totally underrepresented by only 3% of its councillors, while 53% of that population is overrepresented by over 90% of its councillors. Right, we know the government has set the legal framework of first past the post for local representation, but clearly this is inequitable. Something could be done to deal with this democratic deficit and dismal situation. Lambeth could engineer new ways of working through committees which co-opt a wider range of voices, or it could better resource the councillors representing those underrepresented voters, and could work in genuine partnership with all councillors rather than persist with the view that the ruling faction of the Lambeth Labour Party has a monopoly on wisdom. With regards to consultation, out of a population of 317,000, a mere 150 people attended 9 consultation events. That's less than 20 people at each event, 0.05% of the population. In fact, more Lambeth staff participated, 170. How is this in any way a successful collaboration with our residents? Did Lambeth consult through our amazing network of forums and local groups? 70 people turned up to the South Bank Forum last week. Similar numbers attended the Norwood Forum. Clearly not. Rather than collaborate with your trusted partners, sorry?
30 seconds.
Thank you. Lambeth spent desperately needed resources on running your own consultation and getting just 0.05% of the population to engage. That's 1 person in every 2,000 living in the borough. If you had the 600 people who responded in writing to the consultation, this amounts to 0.2% of the population. 1 in every 500 living in the borough. Clearly not statistically significant. With regards to the ambitious focus on sustainability and climate resilience.
Time, councillor, thank you.
You've denied where most of the emissions are, and that's in the building industry. And we are at the epicentre of that. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Nicole, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, brilliant. OK, Nicole, you have 3 minutes to speak to this item.
Thank you, Chair. So Lambeth 2030 is a high-level strategic framework. It's a visionary document. It's not a plan. It carries no substance and doesn't have direct decision-making implications. So my first question is, what is it exactly for? The existing local plan 2020 to 2035 already outlines much to which Lambeth 2030 refers to, but the reader is not signposted to either the local or the London plans for context or further information. The local plan has 3 overarching objectives: economic, social and environmental. So why isn't Lambeth 2030 telling us how these objectives will actually be achieved? I checked out what our neighbour Southwark has done. They have the Southwark Plan 2022, which sets out the vision, strategic objectives and policies for development in Southwark for the period 2019 to 2036. It forms a statutory development plan for the borough, alongside the London plan, and details what they plan to deliver over the next few years. You are selling Lambeth residents short by not providing us with a similar sewn-up plan. We're told that Lambeth 2030 is designed to capture our residents' and partners' concerns and priorities so that it can have a positive impact on all groups in society. There's a lot of putting the responsibility on residents in a borough where a top-down approach is the reality. If you truly want to continue to engage the people of Lambeth during the next 7 years, then involve them in decision-making. Introduce a committee system, organise citizens' assemblies on the issues that really matter, like social housing. Also, how can a vision for Lambeth not include the Lambeth Youth Council when we need young people at the heart of future planning? Members of the Youth Council talk about better preparation for when young people leave education. There's nothing in here about that, or opportunities for apprenticeships, internships, traineeships. It just doesn't add up. It's essential that every Lambeth resident has a comfortable, secure, truly affordable home, yet there's no housing strategy. Instead, we're told by 2030, Lambeth will increase the supply of genuinely affordable housing and the quality of existing homes for residents who need them. But Labour has controlled this council for years and continually failed to meet this objective. It mentions the Safer Lambeth strategy. In its 3 years of existence, we've actually experienced an increase in both knife and gun crime on our streets. The climate emergency is at least mentioned, but there's no real acknowledgement on its potential impact, thank you, on us all or detailed plans. No mention of the Green New Deal, circular economy, carbon zero, low carbon is mentioned once. Talks about access to green space, but doesn't suggest how to overcome the multiple barriers some people face to do so. And it talks about planting trees when we're currently at a net loss and developers are still being allowed to chop down mature trees. We need actual plans based on sustainable prosperity that leaves no one
Time,
behind.
councillor.
Unfortunately, Lambeth 2030 does not provide a roadmap to ensure that happens. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, an action plan. There's loads of plans. Thank you, Nicole. I don't think, well, there were some points made in there and some rhetoric questions. I don't know if you want to address any of the issues that were raised.
Yeah, I have to address a couple of points.
Yeah.
I think around evaluation of the previous borough
Yeah,
plan.
that
so,
was a point.
Quite a few evaluation reports have been published throughout the lifetime of the plan. But I think the main area in which the previous borough plan is considered is obviously through the report that Cabinet is considering later on the agenda this evening, which forms the performance and budget report, which includes the indicators that were contained in the previous plan. There's a wealth of obviously detailed information, as I mentioned in my summary, about performance indicators and outputs that have been measured over a period of time, included in the last quarter. Obviously, as we said, there's so much higher level strategic documents that contain information of that level, but clearly our ambition, I think, set out a plan, but we haven't mentioned it, it's very important, is that all those KPIs will be refreshed and reconsidered in light of the new borough plan adopted by Cabinet, which will obviously really focus then on how we measure success of the plan and how we can take into account on that. I think there was a specific point around engagement. Obviously, we won't be able to cover everything in detail and what we did, but Kieran did summarise it. I think I would just draw out the point on the forum network that we did have a good engagement session with the Lambeth Forum Network, not with every individual forum because of practicalities, but the forum network plays a really valuable job representing the depth of engagement across the borough. We had a really detailed conversation with them about the plan and obviously continue to engage with them as a key partner. Similarly, you mentioned engagement with them and continue when we reference partners. Sure that includes those organisations and community organisations, not just some of the institutions that on the plan as well. And then I think there was a specific point around local plans and confusion about the purpose of the plan. So the sort of plan that was mentioned is obviously their statutory local plan. You can look at ours, I think, in 2021. So in 2021, after a long period of consultation, this certainly isn't a strategic planning document. It seeks to replace that. It's a high level document to work with partners around our ambitions for the borough. But fundamentally different documents have different purposes. I do know that sort of
Yeah, thank you very much. They were the points that I actually did have down as well to be answered. Kieran, was there anything you wanted to say? Okay, thank you very much. And I agree with that. It's about understanding what this document is, because we have a lot of strategies and they're sit below this. And I think it's great that we keep reviewing borough plans when we have them. It shows that we're agile, it shows that we're updating, it shows that we're adapting to needs and local circumstances. And it's not just a document that sits gathering dust in the drawer. So I'm now going to open it up to colleagues. If colleagues have got any questions, Scott, you can sit back if you wish. Thank you. Open it up to colleagues if you've got any questions or observations. I saw Jim and Marcia and Donatus.
Yeah, thanks very much. Just really big thanks again to the team for pulling this together. Actually, despite attempts by both wings of the Green Party that we've heard from today to sort of belittle and in some way understate the extent to which there was good consultation and good engagement. Actually, there was very rich conversations, a whole range of stakeholders involved. Of course, in a borough of 320,000 people, you're never going to get a huge percentage of those people. But if you get people who are really informed and care about the future of their borough in a room to discuss these things, to look to move forward, to really define what we're about as a borough, I think you do get some outstandingly helpful and I think extremely politically supportable by, I would hope, all groups on the council. You get those conclusions, and it's really important we have that. If we don't define what we're about as a council and a borough and a set of partners, then how do we know which direction we're supposed to be going in on a whole range of issues? So I think we have that. I do agree again with the comment that these things need to be reviewed on a very regular basis. On the health and wellbeing side, we've just had a new health and wellbeing strategy replacing one that ran for the previous 5 years. It was really important we did that, and it says some different things, and it sharpens focus, and it hones in on problems that develop or that you have a better insight on because time has moved on. And I think that all of that is incredibly important. And one comment from Scott: if you think passing decisions around committees in the council back and forth is a good way to try and implement the sort of stuff that's in here, I'm here to disabuse you of that because I was around when that used to happen, and it was a time when Lambeth was fairly directionless and didn't really make the changes that it needed to make. Fortunately, those days are behind us. Just quickly on the substance, I do just want to say that timing is particularly helpful. We've already talked about the other strategies that have been developed at the same time as this. The health and wellbeing strategy ran very much alongside, which we got great engagement on as well, ran very much alongside this. And I think if you look at page 62, there's a really clear acknowledgement actually of the way in which social equity and social justice go hand in hand with our health and wellbeing objectives. So, you know, it's all about trying to ensure our populations are supported to live long and healthy lives, and that they stay well throughout those lives. That it really does look to tackle the same things that the health and wellbeing strategy is trying to tackle, and those are determinants of poor health, absolutely essential things that we're here to try and address through our wider plan. So low pay, poor housing, discrimination, poor outcomes of all kinds are absolutely the sorts of thing that if we can tackle, we get better health outcomes from people. So if we give people good jobs, good education, anti-racism, give people active lives, then we can actually start to sort out the crisis in care and the crisis in health that's brought about by the 13 years, as the leader has said, that we've experienced of austerity and decline of public services, notwithstanding the great efforts of us here. So I think the suite of strategies sit very neatly within this wider set of goals and missions, and I think that's a really valuable thing for us. And I just want to say finally, as a sort of on a personal note, it's brilliant to see the way in which we prioritise our work as a borough of sanctuary in here, because we don't include everybody, and that means absolutely everybody, then I don't think we solve problems for anyone. So I think that borough of sanctuary work remains central to what we do, and is a real test of the extent to which that golden thread really applies to our entire borough rather than just parts of our borough. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Marcia.
Yes, Nicole, I'm really confused by your statement. You said the paper's just a vision, but then you wondered why the details of the strategies weren't in it. I'm really thrown aback and confused on your comments and totally disagree. You know, we couldn't have all those details. We pointed towards the strategies, and that's where the details lie. So I think you should go back to the drawing board on that. I'd like to thank officers for capturing the thoughts and priorities of our communities. Anyone who has read our borough plan will see that it is at the heart, it is heartfelt and ambitious for seriously tackling inequalities, crime, meet our net zero targets and improve the health outcomes for our residents. I'm pleased that we have included the age-friendly strategy, which we are embarking on in the borough plan. The age-friendly strategy will capitalise on collaborating with the curbside strategy, active Lambeth housing strategy, and links in with the synergy between child-friendly Lambeth. This Labour administration didn't want to put together a short-term piecemeal plan, but one that is long-term, sustainable, and delivers longevity and sustainability. This borough plan shows how all our strategies and initiatives are intertwined together under the One Lambeth banner, and I'm proud of it.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Annie-Anne Wu.
Thank you very much. I didn't really initially wanted to speak on this because it is clear that this is the borough plan with vision. And then when Court Ensley and Councillor Griffin comes in and talked about first past the post and then also committees, then I realized why we only have 2 members in the council and why also it is most likely, and I warned them before, it is most likely if they continue in this vein, next time around, there will be none of them here. Look, you cannot just talk about things for the sake of criticism. Look at points where you can improve what is there and let's discuss it. None of it came from both of you. No, I didn't hear anything except we were just looking at, thank God you mentioned there's different principles, different policies. This is the borough plan, as Ryan said. You mentioned Lambeth in partnership with Sodok. I'm sure you didn't mention Brighton because you wouldn't say borough plan in Brighton. And I'm also sure you wouldn't mention any other Green Run council with any plan at all. So first and foremost, this key is to work with partners. This is why the borough plan was presented at Lambeth Neighborhood Forum. This is why it was presented to Lambeth Faith Together. This is why it was presented to Lambeth Voluntary and Community Sector Organization. This is why it registered issues, child-friendly, age-friendly, every single thing to do with Lambeth residents. So if you want to be part of it, take off your cover and come in and let's all deliver what is absolutely crucial for the borough, not first past the post.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Dyer.
I would like to commend all the officers who have led the co-production of this plan with the help of our Lambeth communities and stakeholders. Its breadth and ambitions articulate what is possible in a borough like Lambeth as we reimagine who, what and where we want to be by 2030. You, the people, have made it explicitly clear that you want Lambeth to be a place where social justice, racial justice and climate justice are at the core of everything we do. The question is, how do we get there? The borough plan sets a clear, overarching collaborative framework for how our partnerships, structures, policies, practices, behaviours and values can help us to get there. We know that if we all align our works, wherever you are located in this visionary direction, we will get there. A Lambeth that yields the best possible outcome for every single one of its citizens and every single business. Unfortunately, we know that many of our citizens face extraordinary obstacles in their lives. Many of these barriers are cumulative, structural, and deeply systemic. A historical trajectory present way before and sustained by Conservative government's austerity policies, way before the cost of living crisis. But rather, these are deeply embedded, long-standing patterns of discrimination and disadvantage relentlessly attacking some of our communities. In Lambeth, one of the most diverse boroughs in the country, the borough where our black communities make up over 25% of the population, where we are home to one of the largest LGBTQ+ communities in Europe, where our Latino heritage communities are present, where our children's school population are over 80% from black and minoritized groups, makes apparent the urgent need to create a borough where all are able to thrive. We are honest enough with ourselves to know that we are not there yet. Hence, this borough plan, which also reflects our manifesto commitments, provides the catalyst for the scale of transformation required. I want to pay particular attention to the moment that we find ourselves in. We are grappling with the Casey report on the disgraceful state of London's policing, the Children's Commissioner report today on the police strip search of black children being 11 times more likely than their white counterparts, the Labour Party forward reporting to racism and misogyny, the ongoing experiences of disparities impacting all ages and genders, but most acutely poor for our Black, African and Caribbean communities in Lambeth, where these disparities continue to show themselves as overrepresentation in poor housing, unemployment, children's services, poor health, mental health and wellbeing outcomes, amongst others. The acuity of these conditions cannot be underestimated. These outcomes need to improve. We can do better, and we cannot wait for the national government to get its house in order. They will continue to fail the people who actually need them to care about their lives. We will be the change that we want to see. Through this Borough Plan of Partnership, we are seizing the opportunity to explicitly address the institutionalised practices that hold these disparities in place. Our commitment to equity and equalities is explicit in the DNA of our Borough Plan. We are harnessing the best of Lambeth and beyond to yield the best for Lambeth. Lambeth has got talent in abundance. This is also the year we commemorate 75 years of Windrush, Lambeth being its home, and 75 years since the birth of our NHS. We have much to be proud of, yet so much more to do, including lobbying government for the scandalous way it has treated our Windrush generations. My commitment to ensuring that equity is the visible thread in all we do will not waver. My portfolio as Cabinet Member for Inclusive Economy and Equalities remains, and that means I will, along with my colleagues, pay rigorous attention to giving you the evidence that we are delivering on what matters to you. We are not so arrogant as to ask of you that which we don't apply to ourselves. In order to guide the delivery of this Borough Plan, we as a Labour group know that we have to reflect on our own behaviours and be aware of where we may or may not contribute to maintaining systemic racism, anti-Black racism, homophobia or misogyny. We know that we must bring that awareness into all our decision-making contexts. We will hold ourselves to the same standards and scrutiny that we expect of our officers, partners, stakeholders and businesses on behalf of you, the diverse communities we serve, through the vision that we have for Lambeth 2030.
Thank you, Councillor. I saw Councillor Ben Kind.
I echo everything that colleagues have said already this evening, in particular Councillor Dixon, Councillor Andrew's comments there about the committee system. I think notable that the Green Party's attempt to get a petition going on this got 1/3 of 1% of Lambeth residents responding to it, which is a tiny proportion in comparison to the number of people.
Excuse me, no, I won't have heckling from the back of the room.
To notice in the actual documents that they read, the papers, they would have seen the explanation about the other groups that have been engaged through the consultation process, and particularly when it comes to children and young people, the 1,500, 1,500 2 to 25-year-olds who participated in the summer last year in the child-friendly Lambeth engagement has informed a significant portion of the work that officers have brought to Cabinet tonight, including those very specific commitments about changing the way that we make decisions to ensure that their voice is heard within the process, as much as Councillor Dyer was just talking about the wider intersectionality across issues, but to make sure it's actually there and that firm commitment is in the actual plan, where it draws out how we will make those changes in order to ensure that we will have the impact assessment there on the rights of children and young people, but that also then balances against the decision that we took just at full council earlier this year to include specifically the voice of care experience. So I think it's absolutely right for us to be able to look at previous versions of these plans and come back with new improvements. And the final example that I would give about why that's a good idea is because for 4 years, for 2018 to 2022, alongside some other colleagues around the table, we sat in a group of pressure groups and community groups representing green issues called Beyond Politics, where one of the near constant sort of charges and suggestions that would come from that group was a need to put climate justice at the very front of the borough plan. And there you go, here it is today, smack bang in the front of the vision statement, as Councillor Dyer highlighted, where there is a commitment to social and climate justice at the very top of the plan, an overarching theme, as for 4 years, many of us, Councillor Windle, Councillor Chowdhury, you were involved in that, as was Councillor Griffith actually, where that was one of the single things that was constantly talked about, was a need to make that one of the overarching things. So here you are with our Labour cabinet putting that green issue right at the heart of the decisions we make. So I commend the work officers have done.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm not taking contributions from the
Can
floor.
I make a point of personal
stop,
clarification?
No.
Do you want to allow that to happen?
No, I won't. Councillor Windle.
Yeah, again, just to echo everything everyone said, I think obviously this is a strategic document, and the FAO set out, suggested it sets out our values and I think that our behaviours and our culture as well. And I think that's why the golden thread of equality and justice running through is so important. I think when you're developing a document like this, it's sometimes hard to strike that balance between being ambitious and realistic. And I think this strikes the perfect balance in terms of leading towards ambition. But as Ryan Devlin suggested, we'll need to work with our partners to deliver that. But I hope that residents hold us to account on this, not just by 2030, but throughout, to make with all of our strategies and policies and everything, to make sure they align with our culture and our values and our behaviour. I think getting the basics right is the most exciting part of this, and I think that's an important thing for any organisation to do. But for councils in particular, it's become increasingly challenging over the last 13 years with austerity, COVID, Ukraine, Brexit, inflation. All councils are constantly having to reinvent how they deliver those services and how they get value for money while doing them. The most important and exciting bit for me is the housing element. I think building homes, yes, but 3 specific parts which I think really come out in terms of quality housing for local people. And I'm looking forward to fleshing out in the housing strategy around a sort of programme of major works over the next few years, and also responsive repairs and how we can make sure that people have those quality homes in terms of our tenants and our leaseholders, but also the private rented sector and what we're doing to expand licensing to make sure that people in the private rented sector can ensure quality homes. And then finally, housing associations and our strong partnership through the Lambeth Housing Partnership, I think will be a really exciting part of all of this. And again, I hope residents hold us to account on all of that too.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I can't see anyone else indicating. I don't think there are any specific questions in there. I just wanted to, before I close up and see if anyone's got any closing remarks, is say that, as Councillor Kyne said, I think it's fantastic that the voice of so many young people are reflected in this plan. I think it's a shame that the Green Party don't want to amplify those voices. I think it's a shame that the Green Party don't want to include Lambeth staff in inputting this plan. Lambeth staff they are the gold dust. They are the people who make us work as a borough. They are the ones out delivering our services. I think it's vital that their voice is heard. And I'm really proud that that Kieran and Ella have worked so hard to enable those different voices to come in. And as you said, Kieran, and Ryan, the engagement hasn't just been, oh, we'll do a survey online, although we did, and we had hundreds of responses. It has been all that targeted engagement that has been so vital and has so enriched this document. And as Councillor Dixon said, building on the voices in the health and wellbeing strategy consultation, and that's how we should go about our work. And we will continue to do that, as Ryan said, over the next year, as we go out and about working with anchor institutions, voluntary and community groups, resident groups, youth groups, young people, multiplicity of everyone from every corner of the borough, to see how we actually then deliver on those concrete implementations that everyone has referenced. Now, I can't see anyone else indicating, so I'm just going to say thank you very much, Kieran, and pass our thanks to Ella. We know how hard you and your team have worked, and we're really, really grateful for the hard work that you do here in this cabinet. We are grateful for your hard work, and look forward to continuing that over the coming year with the implementation of this. And I've lost what I'm actually. There's one recommendation, colleagues, that we're being asked to look at, and that's on page 39 of your agenda. And that is to approve and adopt Lambeth 2030, Our Future, Our Lambeth, as the Council's key strategic document. and to agree to the proposals for future engagement on the borough plan, which will inform and support its delivery. Are those recommendations agreed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Ryan, and for your work and for speaking here tonight. Oh, there was a third one. I didn't read it out, but that was to agree that key performance indicator reviews, business planning and future policy and strategy development are informed by the borough plan. This is what Ryan referenced earlier, to create a one council approach in alignment with the partners. So having now read out all those three elements, is that agreed? Thank you. Okay, we're now going to move on to item 5, which is quarter-3 budget and performance. We have Hammond and Dami here to speak to this as the officers. Dami. What we have as well. Yeah, if you want to come up, Dami. Councillor Amos, I think, are you going to introduce this item? Yes. Go for it.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm presenting this budget and performance report for Cabinet today to note the latest performance outturns for the borough plan key performance indicators and the financial outturn position of the council. Yes, us directly evaluating performance guided by our current borough plan. So I'd like to take this opportunity, as I did last quarter, again to thank the effort, dedication and professionalism of our officers you've just referred to, Chair, through what continues to be a challenging period, not only for the council, but for our whole community. I'm sure Cabinet will join me in appreciating their spirit of public service and hard work in maintaining provision for our most vulnerable residents. Quarter-3 period that we're looking at this evening saw the council build on the success of quarter-2, performing stronger than in the year 2021-22. Of our performance indicators, 35% saw a significant improvement year-on-year performance, with only 19% seeing a significant fall in performance. It's particularly pleasing to see that the group of improved indicators, many of those that have historically been the most challenging, such as the 67% improvement realised in the timeliness of our social care core group meetings, which have returned the best performance results since 2020. Colleagues will have noticed that new for our reporting is the inclusion of performance forecasting. It's pleasing to note that much of our strong performance in quarter-3 is forecasted to continue into the future. Doing this is a vital part of assessing our performance, making sure that it continues to improve in our work to enable sustainable growth and development and to fulfil our business plan vision. In coming months, a healthy pipeline of work is in place to deliver significant additions to both the housing stock of the borough and the amount of affordable workspace available to local businesses. The second round of the Future Workspace Fund just signed off, providing £1.7 million of funding. We've seen particularly pleasing reduction in the rate of proven reoffending amongst young offenders. Much more to do, but that's down by 16% on last year. It's lower than for London as a whole, for England and some of our neighbours. We've also again hit our target for the inclusion of disabled staff amongst the top 5% of council staff. So despite the overall strength of our performance, there remains areas of challenge, and it's important that we focus on these. Satisfaction with the quality of housing repairs and the volume of issues is affecting the timeliness of our response to complaints. Targeted actions are in place both internally and with our contractors to increase satisfaction with repairs, and performance improvements are expected during the next quarter that we're currently in. Council continues to face a challenging financial outlook, as you referred to, Chair. The continuously challenging funding situation we find ourselves in will remain just that for the foreseeable future. Frontline services have continued to face the combined challenges of increased demand and inflation following a decade and more and counting of Tory and Lib Dem enabled austerity. Councils face increasing financial uncertainty as a result of 12+ years of Tory-led central government steadily stripped local government funding to the bone. Services we provide for some of our most vulnerable residents will continue to come under growing pressure without long-term sustainable funding that meets the extra cost pressures faced by local government. We will continue to work hard to mitigate the impact that the rising cost of living is having on residents. Lambeth has distributed over £8 million worth of targeted support to those who need it most. direct support in the school holidays to families in receipt of free school meals, providing direct payments, households struggling to pay their bills, as our expanded, much expanded council tax support programme. We recognise that the cost of living crisis continues for our residents who are struggling, and we are determined to do all we can to support those in greatest need. That is why, as part of our Lambeth cost of living budget, Lambeth Labour will be investing an extra £7 million in our cost of living support package so that we can continue to help those struggling to make ends meet. Chair, I ask Cabinet to note this budget and performance report and pay tribute to the resilience of our local services in what has and continues to be increasingly challenging times. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. One person has indicated they wish to speak on this item, and that, sorry, Dammy, did you want to say anything by way of introduction? Okay, I should have checked that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Haven't? No. Okay. Councillor Matthew Bryan, you've indicated you wish to speak. Thank you. Councillor, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief as much as I can. Thank you, Chair. Let's see, looking at the Q3 performance and financial report, I think from our group's perspective, there are 3 particular things stand out that I would like to address. The first is the serious deterioration in performance of the housing revenue account. The forecast overspent of 4.4 million in Q2 has almost tripled to Q3. The second is the forecast overspend on legal and governance costs. And the final point is the serious slippage on the borough's capital programme. This is particularly troubling as we know that so many of the council's ambitious targets and plans require improved infrastructure to be put in place now. So in light of the above, I essentially have 3 questions I'll be grateful if Cabinet could address this evening. The first is on the housing revenue account. What are the implications of this overspend for the housing revenue account reserves for next year? And how confident is the Cabinet member that we will be able to capitalise the costs of the housing cost survey, which is referred to in the paper? Second is the crucial bit of housing repair, and I note Councillor Amos mentioned in his introduction that targeted actions are being taken to address this issue. But I recall that we were told this at Q1 performance report and Q2 performance report. So I think we need a bit more detail about what is actually being done to get a grip on housing repairs, particularly now because tenants are facing a double whammy of poor service and then ballooning costs, but disrepair claims which come from the housing revenue account. And the third point, in looking at the overspend on legal costs, the report mentions there's been a 52% increase in the casework of the Children's Services legal team. Do we know what is driving this and what is being done to address it? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you for sticking to time. Okay, there were 3 questions there that I think I'm going to go to Fiona. Did you want to answer the ones on housing, or is it Hammond?
I think under HRA, Hammond, will you pick that up for me, please?
So it's a couple of things on the HRA. The biggest spends are in responsive repairs, and that is part of kind of backward catching, kind of like that. So we recognise that there will be additional pressures in the HRA going into next year, and the service is working on a package of savings to kind of make sure that it will be budget next year. So there will be a transition period and some reserves this year. We expect that to kind of normalise for the end of next year.
Thank you.
I'm happy. The other item you mentioned was around the housing and homelessness of spend. So 4 million, and that specifically reference the additional demands within temporary accommodation across London, and the costs are increasing because the market is quite under pressure, and there is insufficient housing stock.
Thank you.
I'm happy to pick up the question around what are we doing around improving our response in terms of housing repairs, and I'm confident that in Q4 we will see the improvements that we've been talking about for the first 3 quarters on a couple of different fronts. So one, in terms of our contractors, I think we have to acknowledge that COVID, in terms of workforce, in terms of labour, in terms of materials, all of that has been significantly impacted. We also changed contractors during COVID, which meant that we had to significantly support our new contractors. We're confident they're now on the right trajectory, but there's more work to be done. And so we're managing and working with our contractors, our two main contractors, in partnership, acknowledging the pressures they're under, but being really clear about what our expectations are. Internally, in terms of our teams, we are putting in more preventative offer around repairs. So our aim is to increase the responsiveness of our repairs, to make sure that our front door takes triage and the preventative aspect, so lots of the repairs can be done quite quickly, to build confidence with our residents, and also for us in terms of managing responses. That's really important to us. So we expect, as I say, to see that improved performance in Q4 and then to carry that on into 23-24 and onwards.
Thank you very much, Fiona. On the cost implications of the suggestion that it's to do for legal and governance, that's to do with children's casework, Andrew, did you want to speak to that, or go to Raymond? Are you?
Happy to, just briefly, and then if Raymond has anything additional to add. So we have seen an increase in the number of proceedings, applications we've been issuing to the courts. That's part of us reviewing where we've had children on child protection plans. Are those plans actually leading to better outcomes for those children, their lived experience, and if not, then using the court appropriately to try and intervene to get better outcomes for children. We are also monitoring the cost of proceedings and working with other authorities and with the DfE to look at whether or not we can reduce the cost of proceedings overall. There has been a backlog in terms of courts, so proceedings are taking longer, which does therefore incur more cost.
And that's across London and I think nationally. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Did you want to add anything? I think that answers
just to add, thank you, Chair, that we are a demand-led service, so I have to put resources in place to achieve the demand that Andrew's team is producing. One other aspect that we are doing, we are trying to reduce the quota of locum staff, moving to fixed-term contracts where possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor. I'm now going to open it up for any comments, questions, observations from Cabinet colleagues. Councillor Dixon.
Just a really quick one. Again, thanks to officers who have both prepared material but also their hard work. And I think also back to what we were discussing with the last item, it is really important that we do maintain a sort of really vigilant eye on all of this performance data, the budgets and the indicators as well. And other councillors who might have been casting doubt on this must accept our reassurance that actually we spend a lot of our time as Cabinet members making sure that this data is moving in the right direction. And I just wanted to say, following on from Councillor Amos's compliments to adult social care teams who have got indicators moving in the right direction. There's one other that you didn't actually mention, no reason why you should have done, but the work to review those who are in a community setting and make sure that their plans are appropriate. That has seen a very significant rise in terms of the extent to which we're moving people through the system, making up from the COVID backlog, ensuring that we've recruited the right teams to do that. And that is having a really beneficial effect around when we've got control over the care plans and the care activity in relation to individual clients. So I'd just like to place on record my thanks to staff and adult social care for their work on that. And I think it is just on the same indicator on page 95 or on page 5 of the report. It's really important we now see the indicators on the education, health and care plans move in a similar direction. They are currently not in the right place, but we've shown we can do these things quite quickly if we have the staff in place and the determination to do it. So hoping very much we'll see that improve as well.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, anyone else indicating they wish to speak? Councillor Kind.
Just to add to Councillor Dixon that Councillor Bryan's comment and the response that Andrew gave, that it's nearly a 3 times increase in the number of court proceedings that we're seeing at the moment from 2015-16 to now, which is obviously a significant concern in terms of the future for those young people involved. Obviously speaks volumes to the situation that the country has been in recent years, with the pressures on families that often contribute to young people entering the care system and therefore needing the interventions that Andrew and his team make, where they're making some fundamentally difficult and challenging decisions that obviously many of us never experience. And I think at the same time it's worth highlighting that where there are cost pressures within children's services, as Raymond outlined, a large amount of this comes from demand. And so when, for instance, you look at the increase on placements, part of that is because more people enter into the care system. Councillor Dixon mentioned the HCPs. There are more of them. More people make an application, therefore there is more cost associated to processing it. Therefore, it is more challenging for the council, with a limited amount of budget, to be able to produce the kind of outcomes that we want to see, that we are rightly aspirational for.
Thank you very much. Absolutely, Councillor. Thank you for that clarification. Is anyone else indicating? No, I just want to echo what has been said about a significant number of these indicators are significantly improved upon, which is really good. That shows actually the work that we're doing as a council, the hard work of officers are, as Councillor Dixon said, as cabinet members scrutinising these and holding officers to account on them, is producing significant improvement, which is great. And I really want to thank everyone for their hard work. Obviously, we're not there yet on all the indicators, and we know that, and that's why we're continuing to focus and target our resources where they are needed most. And so thank you everyone for all your hard work on this. It's much appreciated. This is, as was said on the previous item, this is where we are looking at the borough plan and the indicators and measuring the outcomes. This is where the bread and butter happens. There on this item, colleagues, it's page 92 of your agenda. There are 2 recommendations that we're being asked to consider. To note the latest corporate performance indicator outturns which reflect progress made towards delivery of the borough plan, and to note the financial position reported for Q3, and to note the budgetary risks and mitigating measures moving forward. Are these agreed?
Yeah, great.
Thank you very much, Dami. You have to speak a lot in that. Thank you. Okay, we will now go to item 3 on the agenda, and that is Homes for Lambeth business plan. This will be introduced by Councillor Danny Adilipur, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Sustainable Growth and New Homes. And the officers, we've got Nabil and Andrew, have we? Yeah, okay. So if you'd like to come up to the table, sir. Yes, thank you. Danny, do you want to do the introduction?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I welcome this report, which sets out the work that HFL will conclude over the next 12 months as we continue the process of bringing it back in-house to the council. This is in line with the recommendations set out in the Kerslake review, which made clear that pulling the plug on HFL very quickly would be the wrong thing to do, as it would delay the provision of new homes that are vitally needed in our borough. So this business plan sets out over the next 12 months what we'll do in terms of getting new homes built in places like Hythorpe and Patmos, and getting construction underway at Roman Rise and Fenwick Place, as well as allowing engagement to get underway on Central Hill and Fenwick, making clear our vision of getting new homes built as quickly as possible as we continue that process of transitioning to the council, and further information about that transition will be given before the summer. But in the meantime, we need to approve this plan so that HFL can get on with that job of finishing off those really important tasks so we can get those new homes built. So welcome the report tonight, and I hope that Cabinet approves it. Happy for officers to go into any further detail they wish to raise on the aspects of the report. Thanks.
Thank you. Nabil, did you want to add anything before I go to those who've indicated they wish to speak?
I think so. I think that covered it well.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just checking something. Okay. All right. And Okay, thank you. I've had two people who have indicated they wish to speak on this item. That's Councillor Donna Harris, who I believe is online. You there, Donna? Yep. Thank you. And we've had an indication from a member of the public, Pete Elliott, but I'll take the councillor first. Councillor, you have 3 minutes to speak on this item.
Thank you, Chair. It seems to all intents and purposes that status quo hasn't really changed on first glance of this report, and precious little detail has been revealed. This document does nothing more than just kick the can down the road slightly further, much to the distress of thousands of residents living on estates earmarked for regeneration. It seems that no lessons have been learnt from Kerslake. As my colleague Councillor Curtis stated at the council meeting in which we discussed Kerslake, any councillor in this room with a clear conscience can justify a lack of strategy on what is arguably our most important issue. Primarily, a one-year business plan is not really a business plan, it's an update. And if any company in the private sector published their plans for just 1 year and no further, there's no shareholder on the planet that would stick around for the complimentary lunch. So our first and possibly most important question would be, when can we actually expect to see details on the disbanding of Homes for Lambeth? When are we expecting to see updates about Central Hill, Fenwick and Cressingham? When are we expecting to close the door on this failed project once and for all? Secondly, where has the 9 million figure for operating costs actually come from? Back of an envelope calculation suggests that Homes for Lambeth will have cost the taxpayer over 40 million by the end of March 2024. Residents deserve better than smoke and mirror financial plans, and we hope that more information will be published in a full proper scrutiny report by Council. Arguably, as important as the question of the disabandonment of Homes for Lambeth is to ask Cabinet, where is the commitment to residents? Where's the apology for the extraordinary stress that's been levelled on residents from across our borough? Residents are not front and centre as they should be, and as was promised. Homes for Lambeth will continue to liaise with the council on these estates, despite being condemned as out of touch and out of empathy. The word resident is written a grand total of 0 times in the business plan. So much for change of direction. In Lord Kerslake's report, his recommendation for a business plan is as follows. Lambeth needs an urgent refresh of Homes for Lambeth business plan.
30 seconds,
Thank you. Fully taking in recent changes in the construction market, slippage to date, lessons learned from performance, thus far for available subsidy, and the establishment of new evidence-based housing strategy for Lambeth. As far as we can tell in the document that we have read, we've seen scant evidence of any of that so far. Thank you.
Thank you. The second person who's indicated they wish to speak is a member of the public, and that's Pete Elliott. Pete, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Homes for Lambeth, brick by brick, war in Iraq. 3 examples of the catastrophic success of the cabinet system and concentration of power. I was surprised to read the following statement at the start of the cabinet report. The report found Lambeth Council performed relatively well through the planning route and praised its performance on net zero and sustainability when developing new homes. On planning, it did so well it justifiably made it into private eye about its poor consultations with residents. On sustainability, only 2 buildings have been completed by HFL, neither of which are anywhere close to what is needed to transform our built environment to net zero, despite the council having total control over all of the HFL build standards. This business plan is massively light on data and information and not worth the paper it was written on. We still have no housing strategy, which the Kerslake review called for, not even a mention. Kerslake also called for lessons learned from the performance so far to inform a business plan. The Kerslake review should have signalled a sea change in the way that residents are treated. Things are getting worse on regeneration estates, and residents are still not at the heart of solutions to address the housing crisis that Lambeth faces. Communities are still being broken up and residents are not getting the support they need and are asking for. We need an urgent plan for retrofitting the estates, as we have now lost another 10 years without major works on these estates. and this must be the council's priority, not wasting more money and time on setting up master plan teams for demolitions. Demolitions must be the last resort for a council saying it wants to address the housing crisis and reach net zero by 2030. We've been requesting a lessons learnt report from South Lambeth Estate, where we had at least one death because of building works on site. There were multiple other issues, and I'm hearing reports from workers on site that the build quality was compromised massively due to the political urgency to deliver the units quickly. We cannot go on in the same way and need robust and transparent plans for all sites. I have no faith in the proposed timings in this plan. Families were rushed out of Truslove House and Denby Court, causing an even greater housing shortage in the borough, and 2 years on, works still have not begun. What's happened to the 360 million borrowed by the council from the government since 2019? And why is there no breakdown of the £9 million being asked for here? Presumably, this is in addition to the multi-millions of extra funding already being demanded for Roman Rise and Hythorpe Road. It states costs have been budgeted fully. Why would we believe that based on previous? Why would we believe that based on previous experience? This feels like just more of the same from the council and Homes for Lambeth. We need more transparency, and residents need to be genuinely at the heart of planning before anyone will start to trust either organisation. Between us all, we can solve the problems, but we first must acknowledge and understand the root causes. I'd like to have a meeting with the Cabinet member and Chief Exec to discuss further, preferably before you sign off this paper. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the Cabinet member before we come to specifics over to the officers. Danny?
Thank you, Chair. Based on those two contributions, I can only conclude that both of the speakers have A, not read the report, and B, didn't listen to my remarks at the start. So I'll try again to repeat what's already been stated both in the report and my remarks. Firstly, the whole point of this business plan is to set out a task and finish job for the year ahead as we begin the process of bringing it back in-house. So why would we set out a 4 to 5 year business plan for an organisation that won't exist in 4 to 5 years' time? To be honest, when it comes to the Green Party as well, I find it really difficult when Mr. Elliott comes here with these remarks. When he talks about comparing Homes for Lambeth to the war in Iraq, it shows he's lost all sense of perspective.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be the first time that he's lost his perspective, because let's not forget that every time we've tried to build new homes in this borough, it's been Mr. Elliott and his party that have opposed it, to the ludicrous extent that when we had an empty building on Roman Rise, Mr. Elliott was stood outside it trying to stop us from getting new homes built for our residents. And I'm afraid,
Please don't heckle.
I'm afraid that is what happens when you become so blinkered by ideology that you forget the interests of the residents you are meant to be serving. In Gypsy Hill, I know that residents want us to get on with getting new homes built. And that's why last year in Gypsy Hill, they elected 2 Labour councillors, because they want us to get these new homes built. And I really hope the Green Party reflects that and understands you cannot make a choice between tackling the climate crisis and the housing crisis. You have to do both. And tackling the housing crisis means taking difficult decisions to get new homes built on scale. It isn't the case of sticking the odd flat here and there on top of a building. We have to take difficult decisions to build new homes. And until the Green Party gets that, they will not have a solution to the housing crisis, and they'll continue to lose elections in Lambeth. Moving on to the Liberal Democrats. Again, as I say, Councillor Harris hasn't listened to me or read the report. But to be honest, the Liberal Democrats have never come up with a single plan for building new homes in our borough, because they are simply a party of protest. They have no interest in getting new homes built, to the extent that when the government proposes even minor reforms to our planning system to try and change things, the Liberal Democrats go around the country delivering leaflets like this to win elections. Leaflets that say things like, we need to stop homes being carved up. We need to stop areas of our country being carved up for building new homes. Residents must not lose their right to stop homes being built near where they live. We need to have the right homes built in the right places. My question to that is, what are the wrong homes in the wrong places? But we know what the answer to that is. It's Liberal Democrats not wanting social housing to be built in areas that they represent. So let's not kid ourselves that we have 2 opposition parties here with no plan for getting new homes built. This business plan and our transition plan will show how we will build new homes over the next 12 months and how we'll bring Homes for Lambeth back in-house to get on with that job. The Greens and the Lib Dems continue being parties of protest on the sidelines. In Lambeth, we take difficult decisions and we get homes built. And I commend this report to Cabinet. Thank you.
councillor. Nabil, I was going to come to you and then maybe Sandra to answer some of the specifics.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I think Councillor Liverpool covered the point around transition. The transition plan will be forthcoming, and actually in paragraph 2.1 it states that clearly. The reason this
Could you speak up, Nabil, please?
Yes. Sorry, in paragraph 2.1 it states clearly in the report why this is just a 12-month plan, because the transition plan will be forthcoming. So I think Councillor Liverpool addressed that question. Particular on the question around costs, just to be absolutely clear, it says up to £9 million here, and that does include operating costs, and it includes staffing costs, but also includes build costs. And this is very much in line with what the ambition is in order for us to continue delivering whilst we transition, whilst we wind HFL down. So that was obviously a very clear recommendation of Lord Kerslake's report, that we need to continue accelerating our housing delivery, and this shouldn't slow down any of that. So this is what this business plan sets out to do. We will maintain delivery whilst we will wind the company up, and that's what that states there. There was another question in there around community engagement. I think just again to outline, community engagement framework consultation was launched a few weeks ago. It runs for another number of weeks, and that is the council resetting its approach to community engagement, and that applies to all HFL and housing delivery consultation. So again, that is not necessarily a piece of work that is going to be taken forward and completed by HFL. So that's probably why it's not been sort of made huge reference to in the business plan, but that is very much a commitment the council is taking forward, and it's currently live. And any findings from those consultations will be fed into any future delivery plans we have for any of the estates or the small sites. I think I've covered most of those, but I don't know, Sandra, have I missed any?
So, but thank you, Nabil. Before you speak, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, Sandra Robert, Interim Chief Exec of Homes for Lambeth. Just a couple of things. It is deliberately a 12-month plan because we are deeply involved in the transition back to the council. There were 17 sites originally with Homes for Lambeth. There are now 4 in the current plan, and the remainder are going to be embedded back into the host organisation, around which there'll be some discussions around delivery to accelerate the programme. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing on resident engagement, Nabil, you commented on the framework, which is a really important priority from the Kerslake review, which is well underway and almost complete, and that will reset the relationships with residents on those estates, which I think was one of the key issues the Kerslake review highlighted. And I think thirdly, in relation to the funding in the plan, it is very much focused on completing the 4 sites that are under construction. The very small team that we now have at Homes for Lambeth, it's much reduced from where it was, and then providing that initial support work to continue delivery. I think the last thing we wanted to have is a gap in the work programme, with a reset being needed over a period of months. The objective of the plan is very much to continue delivering new homes as fast as is possible. And I think the only thing I would say finally is we have just closed the deal on 2 sites just before the end of the financial year to enable us to draw down the GLA funding to start construction.
Excellent, thank you.
Do you want to just comment on South Lambeth?
South Lambeth Estate, I'm not sure what the concerns are around the quality of the build. They're a very strong performer in the marketplace, the contractor. The build has been done in accordance with all the regulations and the framework, and we certainly have positive feedback from the residents who are living in the first phase of South Lambeth Estate. Going forward, it is a complicated redevelopment project. We will be setting down a whole series of principles around how those new later phases will be developed. So as far as I'm concerned, we're satisfied with the first phase of development. And
yeah, there was a specific reference to a death. Can we know that? Because as far as I'm not aware.
I'm not aware of any relationship between that death and the regeneration of the estate. As far as I'm concerned, there's no relationship.
Sorry, you can't come in. I'm sorry, you cannot come in. Could you please go and sit at the back, please, Pete? You've had your time. You make allegations. The officer is responding, and she's going to have a chance to respond.
I'm not aware of any specific relationship in relation to that death and Wimborne House. Wimborne House has been the subject of a series of improvements, I think, over the last couple of years, but I'm not aware of that relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah, about the South Lambeth estate, I was absolutely delighted to go and on the day that the first family picked up their keys, and how thrilled they were. And they were residents on the estate from the neighbouring block, and how a family of 3 was moving into a specifically accessible, adapted flat to meet the needs of that family. I think that answered all the questions that I had written down from those contributions. I don't have any more, so I'm going to now open it up to any colleagues who may have observations or questions or comments. Councillor Windle.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of things on the engagement framework. As a councillor who represents the Westbury estate, I've just been really impressed with the energy and the enthusiasm of officers and the desire to speak to and engage with residents in as many ways as possible and as many residents as possible. I want to commend Homes for Lambeth on what Nabil was talking about in terms of maintaining delivery, and I know how much work went into getting those projects sort of started before the end of the financial year, and I think again staff at Homes for Lambeth deserve huge credit for that. And I really want to commend all the homes that have already been built by Homes for Lambeth, because I think that's a real accomplishment and something that we shouldn't forget. With that in mind, which I think is the right decision to keep Homes for Lambeth homes existing for a bit longer to help to manage those new properties and to manage them as they transition back into the council. I just wondered if there's any more details on the process and timelines for that movement of those homes back into the council and the HRA that you can provide.
Okay, Nabil, can you pick that up?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Councillor Windle. So the timetable for the transition plan is as Councillor Liverpool said, we will be sets out exactly transition back also by side, also by that point of the feasibility is to reach a sites that are transferring back. So that timetable will be set out.
Thank you very much, Nabil. Do any other colleagues wish to ask any questions or make any comments or observations? No. Okay, then I think that I'll then move on. No one else wants to speak on this item, and there's no one else who wants to summed up. Okay, right, I'm going to move on then to the recommendation. It's on page 5 of your agenda, colleagues, and we're being asked to consider this, to approve the HFL business plan, Homes for Lambeth business plan, which covers the period from April 2023 to March 2024. Is that recommendation agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, officers, all 3 of you, to Andrew, Dorian and Sandra for attending. And I have to go to the very end of the agenda. And that concludes business for this evening. The next Cabinet meeting is scheduled to take place on the 8th of May. So have a good evening, everyone, and have a good week. And thank you very much for attending.